grateful you have taken this opportunity to come to Rome and see, in addition to the beauties and the history of Rome, the other side of Rome that so many people live at this time. Thank you for coming and learning more about the situation of refugees and displaced people. JRS is a worldwide organization. We serve in 45 different countries. We serve over 700,000 of our sisters and brothers around the world. Most of the work that we do is in and near the countries that people leave. We do have a presence in Europe, as many of you know, and as you just heard today, earlier. But most of the work we do is in the Mideast, in Africa, in Asia, working with people who have been displaced, offering hope, offering opportunities, offering new lives. You would not be surprised to know, being a Jesuit operation, that education is our primary focus. If you pick up one of those bags with information about JRS when you go out, you'll see 3 pieces of information focused on a campaign we have called Mercy in Motion, in honor of this holy year of mercy. JRS wants to offer education to another 100,000 young people throughout the world, and we're trying to raise money to do that. Education, we profoundly believe, is the game changer. If we can imagine the Trinity looking down on the world today, I believe the Trinity is seeing those 65.3 million of our sisters and brothers who are forcibly on the move. The 65 million people is larger than the population of Spain, equivalent to the population of Italy, and represent the largest number of displaced people since World War II. How might you and I, echoing what the Holy Trinity sees, how do you and I, as sisters and brothers with an Ignatian vision, respond to this? Again, our experience of the divine, however we define the divine, should lead us to serve others. Our experience of following Christ should lead us to see and serve Christ in the world. I think we always have to remember that the first trip that Pope Francis made out of Rome was to Lampedusa, the Mediterranean island, which symbolizes the desperation and hope of Africans crossing the Mediterranean to a new land. I also don't think it is an accident that when he went to the island of Lesbos in Greece 5 months ago, to once again remind all of us that refugees' lives are worth something. He not only invited Orthodox leaders to be with him, but he brought 3 Syrian families home with him. The thing the church needs most today is the ability to heal wounds. Refugee sisters and brothers recognize Christ. We become more Christ-like, and we recognize Christ in them. How do you and I begin to see our refugee sisters and brothers more like the Holy Trinity? How do we begin to put faces on those 65 million people? Let me suggest for us a path from fear and anxiety through justice and love to welcome and accompaniment. Fear and anxiety, justice and love, welcome and accompaniment. When we are afraid or anxious, we can focus on little else but what makes us afraid or anxious. From an Ignatian point of view, the fear anxiety is an attachment. We get stuck there. It holds us back from seeing reality as it is. Our attachments, whatever they are, we've all got them, get in the way of our embracing the freedom of God and the freedom to see the world as God sees it. And I think the fears and anxiety in general, but certainly fears and anxiety about the moment of refugees, propel us to look for security. Frankly, solutions based in fear and anxiety are usually so lacking in perspective and freedom that the desired security is fundamentally an illusion. Decisions based in fear are not the answer. What does offer us an answer, though, is the first letter of John. In chapter 4, verse 18, John writes, "In love there is no room for fear. Perfect love drives out fear." That's a tall order, I acknowledge. You and I will never have perfect love. But I think the invitation for you and me is clear, and I think Ignatius would approve of this. To move from a place of fear to a place of openness, to seeing the world as God sees it, is a stance of love, a stance of openness to the other, so that fear does not become the dominant mode of decision-making. So what might love concretely look like for you and me? Let me suggest the first move, and an important move, is justice. We should never forget, according to the U.S. sociologist Cornel West, that justice is what love looks like in public. I think the language of human rights is incredibly important right now. The rights of all people, local people and refugees, migrants and natives. It's important for all of us who are participating in civil society to embrace this. I would encourage you, as products of Jesuit education, to be part of that civil society, to embrace this challenge right now of speaking for a love that reveals itself in justice. At the same time, acknowledging that it's complicated, because human rights often involve my rights and your rights, and they may not always mesh. It's complicated. JRS obviously believes that refugees are entitled to basic human rights of safety and security, freedom to express their religion, a right to education, and a possibility to work. A lot of our work in advocacy is focused on that. Can our love, imperfect as it is, express itself in welcome? Can we invite ourselves personally and as cultures to move to a place of welcome? Can we have the freedom to look not at 65.3 million people, but at 1 or 2? Can we take the risk to go beyond fear, to come to know a refugee, to listen beneath the label of a refugee, and to come to understand that what you and I have in common with a refugee or forced migrant is much greater than what separates us? This idea of welcoming is essential, I think, to JRS's work, and I think it's essential to what we can do, not only in Europe, but throughout the world, as we are dealing with this phenomenon of people forcibly on the move. Pedro Arrupe's words specifically call us to accompaniment, to welcoming the refugee and stranger, to take on his or her experience as a starting point to our service to her or him. In the context of welcoming, we accompany people who have had to flee their homes, who have been traumatized in countless ways and who face an often uncertain future. From a place of welcome, JRS and you and I can help people to heal, can help people find hope, can help them move beyond fear, can help ourselves move beyond fear, finding the presence of God in the here and now. I would just note that JRS does this in a complicated world like the refugee and forced migration world is in Europe. 70% of the people that we serve are non-Christian. 55% of the people we serve are Muslim. And we do not serve them because of who they are, but because of who we are as followers of Jesus Christ. We accompany these folks so that the presence of God, however they might call on God, is more tangible and gives hope in their lives. Can we, as Jesuit graduates, aspire to do this? Can we strive to see forcibly displaced people as the Trinity sees them, Can we accompany them in welcome and justice? Can we take the risk of realizing that we have more in common than what drives us apart?